Keith Bottomley, Alderman Bowman, Deputy Henry Colthurst, Josephine Hayes, Deputy Hodgson, Shravan Joshi, Philip Kelvin, Charles Edward Lord, Timothy McNally, Deputy Henry Pollard, Deputy Nighat Qureshi, Alderman Sushil Saluja, and Naresh Hari Sompar. Are there any more you're aware of, Chair?
I'm not aware of any more. We're just checking for, are we quorate?
We are quorate, yes.
We are quorate. I think it's 9, isn't it?
Yes, it is,
okay.
yes.
Okay. No one's allowed to leave. Very good. So, item 2, do you have any declarations under Adam?
Do I have to switch this on, or is it on?
They're always on.
Okay. Just to say that I have cleared it, in fact, with the legal department, but I am chair of the Major Works Renewal Board for Golden Lane.
Right.
And I'm sure that I don't have any real reason why I shouldn't be here.
Very good. That's noted. Thank you. Anybody else? No, very good. We can move on then. So item 3 is the first substantive item related to Crescent House, Golden Lane Estate, EC1Y. Just so everyone can be refreshed on the process, officers will present their report. Then we will hear from objectors, except I don't think there are objectors wishing to speak today. Then we will hear from applicants and supporters, and we do have 2 of those. You'll have a chance to ask them questions. Then we'll hear from the member of the ward, Gabby Robertshaw. Again, we can ask questions of Gabby. Then it's a chance to ask questions of the officers, and then we can debate and vote. So hopefully that's clear. I will now invite John Grierson to present his report.
Thank you, Chair. The application site comprises Crescent House within the Golden Lane Estate. Crescent House is a 4-storey building with commercial units and a public house at the ground floor and 159 residential apartments across the upper 3 floors. The proposal seeks planning permission and listed building consent for works pertaining to fire safety, building services, external repairs and redecorations. Alongside the need for general repair and refurbishment works, the main reason for the proposal coming forward is Crescent House being categorised as a higher risk building under the Building Safety Act of 2022. This designation is due to the shared cause and means of fire escape with Hatfield House and Cullen Welsh House, which are both high-risk buildings due to their height. Crescent House forms part of the Golden Lane Estate, constructed between 1958 and 1962 to designs by Chamberlain, Powell and Bon, of later renown for the Barbican Estate. Since 1997, it's been designated as a Grade 2-star listed building for illustrating the pivotal role Chamberlain, Powell and Bon's ideas had in the evolution of post-war architecture in Britain. This designation is in addition to the site being located within the Barbican and Golden Lane Conservation Area. In addition, the Golden Lane Estate is a designated landscape, being a Grade 2 registered historic park and garden. As part of the development, it's proposed to redecorate all painted surfaces across the building, which has been led by investigations into the historic coloration of the building. The findings of these show that some of the painted surfaces were originally unpainted. However, it's not feasible to return them to their original state. As such, it's proposed that external party walls should be finished in a pale stone paint in line with their original colour. This is the existing Goswell Road elevation, where the party wall is currently painted red. And this is the proposed with the stone colour. This is the existing north and south ends of the building elevations. And this is the proposed with the party walls and areas of render on the balconies and facade finished in stone colour. Following feedback received from residents during consultation, the coloration of internal slab edges and pilotti are to be retained in the red colour that's found today, ensuring the warm Mediterranean feel of the spaces is retained. This is the existing east elevation facing into the estate. And this is the proposed with the party walls in render in stone colour and the columns remaining red. The internal walls will be painted in a stone colour, while doors will be painted in an olive brown. Final colours will be subject to condition to ensure officers are satisfied with the external appearance. As is evident in the images on this slide, the bush-hammered concrete on the building is in need of repair in numerous locations. A method statement has been submitted as part of the application detailing the process and management of works. An additional method statement has been produced detailing repairs to other areas such as render repairs, cracks in walls, tiles and drainage. Conditions are to be attached for trial works to ensure a satisfactory standard is achieved prior to the wider works across the building. The first element of the fire safety works will remove the existing gas supply to the building, including all associated infrastructure such as pipes and meters. Whilst the building originally benefited from a shared centralised system of heating and hot water, sometime between the mid-80s and early 90s, gas supply pipework has been installed throughout the building, including gas meters located both internally and externally. This has resulted in a cluttered and incoherent network of piping and meter boxes which visually detract. Fire stopping is also required throughout the building, and whilst the majority of the locations for this are not visible, two original features of interest will require fire stopping. These are the circular roof lights located in the level 2 corridor and the small milk delivery doors located within the internal corridors. Fire bat, which is a form of insulation to prevent spread of fire, is to be installed directly below the glazed roof lights and concealed by recessed painted plasterboard, which would retain the appearance of the openings within the concrete. It should be noted these roof lights have been historically covered with asphalt on the upper levels, leaving only the recess in the ceiling on the floors below, and so they don't serve any functional purpose. Fire bat is also proposed to be installed behind the milk delivery doors, which would be retained but sealed shut to ensure adequate compartmentation for the flats. Works are also required to the 8 refuse chutes, which all link to the upper floors to the bins at the lower ground floor level. Presently, there's no fire protection, so it's proposed to install a new fire closure plate within the bin store at the base of the chutes and replace the existing mix of original and non-original hoppers with new fire-rated hoppers. Final product details are to be secured by way of condition. New smoke and heat detection systems are to be installed in the kitchen, lobby and living areas of all flats. It's also acknowledged that the front entrance doors to the flats within the internal corridors need to be replaced alongside the introduction of cross-corridor doors within internal corridors to meet fire safety requirements. These elements are not scoped into these current applications as the detailed designs are under development by a specialist contractor to ensure a good like-for-like replacement. These are to follow in a further additional application in the future. It's also been identified that significant works are required to the existing electrical infrastructure with installations at the end of their serviceable life and therefore needing to be replaced. Presently, the electrical supplies for flats run from the network substation located in the lower ground floor of the building, horizontally through the lower ground floor areas of commercial units, and then run vertically up through the ground floor of commercial units to the flats above, buried in the concrete walls of the building. In comparison, landlord supplies in the communal areas run through the building in existing ceiling-mounted trunking through levels 1 and 2, with level 3 fed by vertical trunking rising from ceiling mounting at level 2. And this also contains other services such as access control and telecommunications. Given the location of the main supply to the flats set within the concrete walls, they cannot be reused and would not meet present wiring regulations. Therefore, entirely new cable routes are required from the meter room to each of the individual flats. Furthermore, given the cables are larger in diameter than existing routes would not be large enough for new installation, and as such, it's proposed the cables are distributed via new trunking routes across the ceilings, alongside landlord supplies and other associated services such as telecommunications. The new suspended metal ceiling is indicated here in the visualization of the internal corridor. It would be a metal perforated system to ensure ventilation and a route for water egress should leaking occur. The final details and appearance of this ceiling would be secured by way of condition. The reflective ceiling plans of the first floor indicate the extent of the system, and likewise for the second floor. As mentioned, the third floor will be fed by vertical trunking from the ceiling mounting at level 2, as the ceiling's more open at this level. Presently, as well, there are communal lighting within Crescent House is ad hoc with insensitive light fittings that range in design and vary in colour temperature. There's very little evidence of the original Chamberlain, Powell and Bond lighting. The consolidation of electrical services in suspended ceilings also afford the opportunity for a new comprehensive lighting approach for the building, recessed within a new ceiling duct. The new lighting strategy seeks to reintroduce the original design intent where possible, with lower levels of light and a warm ambience using a minimal number of light fittings that are recessed in building fabric or surface mounted with a functional aesthetic. Strategy also seeks to provide emergency lighting in line with current guidance and regulations and introduce controls for efficient energy management. Whilst an indicative strategy has been provided in the submission, the final details would be secured by way of condition, including details of luminaries and wiring routes. The reason for the application being brought before the committee is due to the number of objections being received from residents, in particular to the design of elements such as the proposed trunking and paint colours. Since the submission of the application, the applicant team have worked to address these comments through further engagement with residents and providing further information on the rationale behind the proposal and making amendments to the proposed paint colours. In addition, the City's planning officers have sought to address comments from residents pertaining to detailed design through the use of appropriate conditions and informatives. This includes conditions relating to facade cleaning and repairs, paint colours, internal design details such as the suspended ceilings, a lighting strategy, management and maintenance plan, and an informative advising the applicant team to engage with residents prior to submission of details required by condition. The full condition schedules provided in the document pack for the listed building consent and planning applications on pages 110 and 96, respectively, with additional updated wording provided in the addendum from 4th of June. Overall, officers consider the proposed development protects and improves the City's existing housing stock in a manner which is acceptable in terms of design and heritage, amenity, fire safety, and all other material considerations. Therefore, officers recommend the applications for planning permission and listed building consent are approved, subject to appropriate conditions, as outlined in the committee report and the addendum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as a reminder, colleagues, you can ask officers questions a little bit later in the meeting. Next up, we have no objectors who have registered to speak today. We do, however, have two supporters or supporters/applicants. I have got Mr. Colin Davis and Helen Fentiman. You can choose whichever order you speak in. Just while you're coming up to the lectern, if I explain the protocol, you have together a total of 10 minutes, but individually no more than 5. So that's pretty straightforward. And we run a traffic light system. So you start with green. When both lights are on, you have 30 seconds. And when it's just red, that's the end of time. So I would aim for no more than 5, please. And we shouldn't have any issues. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. So, good afternoon, committee. My name is Helen Fentiman, and today I address you as the Chair of Community and Children's Services, the committee responsible for this major refurbishment programme, which specifically includes Golden Lane Estate, an iconic Grade 2 listed estate, which consists of 559 flats and maisonettes across 9 blocks, and Crescent House itself, which is Grade 2 star listed, which contains 153 apartments. We fully appreciate the critical need to preserve the character and appearance of the building insofar as possible when undertaking major refurbishment work of this nature. It is a distinctive building and holds a prominent position in terms of local history. It is frequently visited and admired by students and the public with an interest in 20th century architecture. With our appointed architect and planning consultant, we have worked together closely to ensure that the application reflects those cherished values. Residents of this estate, and Crescent House in particular, feel passionate about their living environment. There is no doubt that this far-reaching and ambitious programme of works is long overdue and is intended to transform homes in terms of safety, comfort and thermal efficiency. While some repairs have been carried out in recent years, the Major Works Renewal Programme has significantly expanded from simply window repairs and roof covering replacement. It is now much more significantly comprehensive and in terms of landlord responsibility is all-encompassing. Ongoing engagement with residents has been extensive over the past 3 to 4 years with the formation of the Crescent House Resident Liaison Group, which consists of tenants, leaseholders and representatives from GLERA, the Golden Lane Estate Residents Association. Their voices have been critical to the development process. We remain committed to collaborative working with the RLG, responding to and resolving concerns wherever possible throughout the life of the programme. There is no doubt, however, that the impact on residents is significant, as many people will need to vacate their homes while the work is underway. This has also been an important aspect of discussions with the liaison group. Our collective aim is to ensure that options for decanting are presented sensitively and with consideration for individual residents' needs. Additional officers are being recruited to support this and will work across the estate, engaging with residents at an appropriately early stage of this process. Alongside this, the Golden Lane Estate Major Works Renewal Programme Board has been established. It also involves GLERA, tenants and leaseholder representatives, senior officers and other elected members. The board has the opportunity to scrutinise the detail of the programme, and with the support of Concilio, the corporation's appointed communications consultant, ensures that ongoing communication engagement is embedded as a core focus of the programme for the estate. The programme is very extensive, as said, and the additional elements included within this application, together with the window repairs and roof covering replacement already approved, will be delivered as a holistic package, with the intention of minimising resident disruption and demonstrated a fully coordinated and joined-up approach. It will significantly improve the health and well-being of people's lives, ensuring that they can feel comfortable and safe in their homes and proud of the estate in which they live. It is our obligation to repair and maintain our housing stock as a good social housing landlord who is fully committed to residents and the quality of their homes. This programme will allow City of London Corporation to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. And now Mr. Davis.
Good afternoon. My name's Colin Davis from Studio Partington with the architects for the scheme. The proposals presented aim to secure the long-term future of Crescent House while minimising harm to its and its contribution to the development of post-war social housing in London. Of replacement. Much of the services installation is original from 1962, with piecemeal and unsympathetic additions accumulated over time. The original methods for installing services do not make replacement straightforward. Crucially, the original services were cast into the concrete frame and all concealed in the walls of the building. This means that a like-for-like replacement of services is not possible. The original service routes cannot be used. Extensive design work has been needed to develop new routes for services which minimise intervention and result in the least possible harm to the building. Upgrading the building services offers an opportunity to remove the piecemeal aggregation of additional services, rationalising decades of additions, including gas supply pipework and meters, telecoms, access control and landlords' power systems, into a single coordinated solution. This is achieved through the introduction of suspended ceilings in the common areas at first and second floor. This approach allows for the removal of redundant and visually intrusive services, creates a maintainable and accessible installation, and allows for inevitable future upgrades, all with minimal impact on the building. The proposed planning condition ensures that the detailed design of the ceiling can, if possible, be refined to achieve further improvement in the balance between functionality and heritage. Inherent in replacing the building services comes an opportunity to make significant improvements to the communal area lighting. None of Chamberlain, Powell & Bond's original lighting scheme remains, with a wholesale change in the lighting installation taking place 30 or 40 years ago. Many of the light fittings installed then no longer work or have reached the end of their useful life. Recently, failed fittings have been replaced on an ongoing ad hoc basis with often inappropriately bright LED light fittings. All of this means the current lighting has resulted in overlit spaces, excessive glare, uncontrolled light spillage, and historically unsympathetic colour temperatures. The proposed lighting strategy addresses this through the use of concealed or recessed fittings wherever possible, and where the building fabric will not allow for this, discrete, historically referential surface-mounted fittings have been selected. Pre-application mock-ups and testing have ensured appropriate lighting levels, elimination of glare, improved colour temperature, and reduced light spill into homes. A site-wide lighting control system and fully compliant emergency lighting are also included within proposals. A detailed analysis of the various decoration schemes applied to the building since completion has been carried out with the aim of establishing the original colour scheme used. Through studying paint samples taken from throughout the building, analysis shows that it is most likely the original colours used were selected from the then recently established 1955 British Standard BS 2660, Colours for Building and Decorative Paints, the first document of its type to aid designers with consistent colour referencing. With reference to the paint samples and the BS, historic paint specialist Patrick Beattie has proposed a palette of colours for the redecoration of Crescent House. Where currently painted surfaces were not originally painted, Patrick has made recommendation based on the first and most frequently used colours in these areas. For example, the party walls to the external elevations of the building that are currently painted red were not originally painted, and here a pale stone colour is specified. Through the planning application process, some adjustment to the colour scheme has already been agreed, and the proposed planning condition allows for the final selection of colours to be agreed via sample decoration testing on site. Much time and effort has gone into engagement with those who care deeply about Crescent House. Residents, resident liaison groups, GLERA, the 20th Century Society, Historic England and City of London's Planning and Conservation team. We echo the comments of the 20th Century Society and Historic England that these proposals are proportionate and are a careful, considered response to the challenges facing this important Grade 2 star listed building. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Now, there's an opportunity for the subcommittee to ask questions of the applicants or the supporters or the architect. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to raise? Alison Gowman.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I ask about the alternative heating system? You're removing the gas, so therefore I'm assuming it's going to electric. I think there has been an issue about electricity supply generally across central London. So what is the solution here? Is there a sufficient capacity in the grid to be able to immediately switch over once this is done to electricity? And secondly, are you also building into the process an ability to link into the prospective district heating network that the city is planning across the whole of the square mile so that it will be able to flick over to that formal district heating network? Thank you.
Okay, so first question on removal of the gas. Correct. The alternative will be electric. And there are various solutions to that being looked at. One based on storage heaters and electric hot water cylinders. One looking at using electric combi boilers for that, including a new development of an electric combi boiler which also incorporates battery storage, which means that cheap electricity can be bought overnight and then be used to heat water and the homes during the day. In terms of capacity, we've been in ongoing discussions with UKPN, who provide power to the site, and there will be a substation upgrade required, which will come forward as a separate application for that work. But that will ensure that there is the capacity to deliver the electricity to the homes, and obviously the new cabling is sized to provide the appropriate load or demand that each home places on it. In terms of linking to CityGen, that would require a whole different heating and hot water strategy. So within the confines of the listed building, installing a district-based heating system would be quite a challenge given the constraints of space within the building. You've seen already the challenges of running new electricity cables to homes. If we were to link into, say, a district heating system, that would add far greater amounts of building services to the building. So at the moment, it's an entirely electricity-based approach.
Is that a follow-up?
Actually, I don't mean CityGen. I mean the new district heating system that they're currently out for tender for the corporation. So we're looking at something 10
apologies.
years ahead. But commercial buildings are being required to link ready for that.
Yeah. In a way, I think the answer remains the same. It would still require running significant, probably low-temperature hot water pipework throughout the building with some form of ability to increase that temperature within the home, so a sort of shoebox-sized air source heat pump within the home. And right now, that seems a challenge to fit into what's already a quite congested communal areas of the building.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Liz King.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for addressing so many of the objectors' issues running up to, but what I'm quite disturbed about is how we've got to the point where these surely could have been sorted out through engagement earlier, and it's quite disappointing that we've got to this point. But there seems to be only one outstanding issue that's come from GLERA about the having meters at the flat doors versus in the basement. And obviously that would have, being able to fit a smart meter through having your actual meter at your door would actually be quite useful, I think, in terms of energy efficiency of the whole building. Could you explain why, I mean, beyond the, yes, every individual has to do it, but surely there's part of the engagement process where the whole project team could go out and try to convince all the leaseholders that this is a good thing for them, and can you commit to trying to work with residents to achieve that? Thank you.
I'll answer as much as I can. It's not really my place to make that commitment. However, as the design has progressed, I think the intention is absolutely to relocate meters from the basement so that each flat will have its individual meter within the home, and that the city is intending on employing resident liaison officers whose first task will be to engage with residents, leaseholders and tenants to help with that process. So I think that's absolutely the aim.
Okay, thank you. Marianne Fredericks.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask the Chair of Community and Children's Services, thank you very much for outlining the consultation process that you've engaged, and it's really good to hear that. Thank you. You would have seen that Appendix 1, the Appendum 1, has come in with comments from the Golden Lane Estate Residents Association. And mainly, the comments are to ensure that your department continues to work with and liaise with the Residents Association. And given that you are, and you have that commitment that you will, I'm sure you've got no problems agreeing their add-ons to the conditions that they've sent in Appendum 1. I just wanted to ask, do you have any issues with those conditions being amended, which basically say that you'll continue to discuss and debate and work through the details with the Residents Association and the residents? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. I hope that I was clear in the earlier comments that I made, is that the whole of this programme has been based on conversations and discussions with residents through the liaison group and then more recently through the renewal board. There is absolutely every intention for both of those things to continue throughout the life of this project. And as the chair of the committee, I'm very happy to give full commitment to continue those discussions. It is really important that any investment in this estate or any other estate is predicated on the things that will make a difference to people's lives. And by that, I mean a positive difference to people's lives. No authority, including this, wants to invest substantial sums of money in a scheme that is not going to support residents' health and well-being. That is certainly not the intention. Quite the contrary, we will continue to have conversations all the way through the programme. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the question. Any more questions for the applicants? Okay, thank you. We can now move on. The next section is the elected member for the ward of Cripplegate, Gabby Robertshaw. I suspect you know the process, Gabby, but just as a reminder, you have up to 5 minutes, and we may have questions for you at the end of your time.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Gabby Robertshaw, and I am a councillor for the Cripplegate ward. I speak today on behalf of residents and the GLERA technical team. I have a disclosable pecuniary interest. This is in my register of interests, and I have been granted a special dispensation to speak as an elected member on the application for Crescent House being considered today. Crescent House is the first building to undergo a much-needed refurbishment as part of the corporation's £100 million plus regeneration of the Golden Lane estate. It is the largest and the last building to be completed on the estate, and marked a critical point in the evolution of the architect's later design of the Barbican estate, hence its listing as Grade 2 star. The current applications will result in major interventions to communal space. This caused great disquiet amongst residents, hampered by lack of information. Due to the foresight of the corporation's planning team, following an on-site visit, these applications have now been well conditioned. GLERA, the Golden Lane Residents Association, has a technical subgroup made up of 17 residents and building industry expertise. They are all practicing professionals, apart from 3 who are retired. The stated aims of the group are to represent the interests of all residents and tenures, and to seek to develop a positive relationship with the project team and other stakeholders, with the view to making a positive contribution. 5 of the group are Crescent House leaseholders, 2 of whom also are long-standing members of the Crescent House Resident Liaison Group. When a resident consultation event was held in early December, the design solutions presented for electrical services and lowered ceilings in the lift lobbies were minimal. But it was understood that there would be another resident liaison group before planning was held. This is why there were few comments at this point. All were waiting to see more detail. However, this follow-up resident liaison group meeting was not held until the 5th of March, despite pressure from members. The planning application was submitted, and with very little additional design detail for electrical services, which was not easy to find. The promised further resident consultation for exterior paint colours was not mentioned. It was known from previous experience that the design team are keen for feedback from technical residents. Good relationships have been built up that have been to the benefit of the project. However, there was no opportunity for that detailed engagement to occur. With reluctance, after having to spend time and money mocking up a service tray from dimensions provided by the applicant, objections were submitted. This could have been avoided. Nobody wants to hold up work. GLERA are very grateful to planners for taking the time to visit Crescent House and see for themselves that the information provided was of insufficient detail to describe work proposed to a Grade 2 star-listed building. The planning conditions they have attached to the application, along with the addendum to include many of GLERA's requests, have gone a long way to address concerns. This is a massive project at huge cost and disruption. When the head of major works first met residents, he declared, "I need your buy-in. Proper engagement is the way to secure this." Time spent explaining and discussing design solutions with residents before planning submissions are made is never wasted, particularly where there is a technical group who can help explain to neighbours some of the constraints that the project team are working under. I would urge the committee to take serious note of the conditions, particularly the informative advising the applicant to engage with the residents prior to submission of further detailed design elements. And with this in mind, I welcome approval of the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabby. Bang on time. I'd just like to invite any questions of you, Gabby, before you sit down, just in case. Any questions of Gabby? There are not. So thank you very much for your time today.
Apologies.
Okay. We now move to the opportunity for the subcommittee to ask officers questions on their report, anything that might be outstanding, perhaps. You might now feel comfortable enough for us to move into the debate phase. Okay, we're now in the debate, and would members wish to debate this? Alison Gowman.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, it's really to reiterate, I would support this application as it has now come to us with those amendments, and the care and concern about how the impact, particularly of that overhead tray, which all of the heritage organisations that consulted, that was the thing that they most highlighted, was of their concern as to how that would work out. That I think the importance is that there's every effort is made to try and ensure that the number of cables that can go directly from the flat into the basement or whatever the system is, but not in the overhead tray. So 153 cables in an overhead tray does seem to be a bit excessive. I think every effort should be made to do that. I'm also very pleased to hear that there's been a breakthrough with UKPN, or at least an iteration of that conversation, because having that capacity for the grid to go there means it's avoiding any other kind of poor solution that might have had to have been made in those flats. So I think that's important that that has come to a positive outcome, and that I think every effort should be made that that is carried through at the same speed, because we do know that as soon as you involve other organisations, especially utilities, they can move at their own pace. I think we want to make sure that that is there as a smooth handover when the gas obviously is turned off in Crescent House. So subject to those points and to ensuring that those conditions and the extra advisory ones are taken into account, I'd be very happy to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alison. Anyone else wish to say anything? Okay, in which case I'll just draw you to, I think it's page 7 of the pack, where there is the recommendation we are voting for. I'll take them both together. So we'll be voting on both issuing a decision notice granting planning permission and a decision notice granting the listed building consent. I don't see a reason to take them as separate votes. We'll go through the vote in favour, against and abstentions, just to be clear. So all of those in favour of the proposals, please raise your hand.
16.
16. Those against? And any abstentions? Okay, that was carried unanimously. That is the second vote on a Golden Lane project that was carried unanimously. I think December 2023, the same thing happened with the windows. Very good. Okay, we're now going to move on. Thank you to everyone who addressed the committee today on that matter. The second item, which you will find in your pack, let me just help you find the right page. 195 in the main pack relates to 47 to 50 Mark Lane. I think we'll let the screens get changed. We do have objectors this time, so we're going to have a presentation from officers, then objectors and questions, then supporters and questions. Then we have a member from the Ward of Tower who's not on the committee who wishes to speak. Then finally questions of officers before we debate and vote. Okay, I think that's clear. I think Hibak Geller, you're presenting. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair and members of this committee. This presentation provides a summary of the committee report and presentation previously shared with members. The application before you is 4750 Mark Lane, outlined here in red. The application site is bounded by Mark Lane to the west, Seething Lane to the east, Bywood Street to the south, and commercial development to the north. The site is not listed and not within a conservation area. There are a number of designated heritage assets in the locality, including the Grade 1 listed All Hallows Church and the Grade 2 star listed former Port of London Authority building. These are photographs of the site. At present, the site is vacant and enclosed by construction hoarding, as redevelopment works have commenced. Prior to this, the building was in office use with ground floor retail units and a public house. These photographs show the site in views from Mark Lane and Seething Lane. Now on to the planning history and context. Planning permission was granted for the redevelopment of the site in 2023, and the permission was amended through a Section 73 application in 2025. The latest consent is shown in this CGI. It includes office space, retail space, a public house, a heritage and cultural learning centre, tourist touchdown space, public viewing terrace, and public realm enhancements. The application before members today seeks to amend certain elements of that consented scheme. The proposed changes relate to the ground floor, basement, and the operation of the viewing terrace only. All other aspects of the development remain as approved and are not under consideration as part of this application. The amendments are proposed in response to feedback received from the applicant's marketing exercise, which commenced in 2023. I will now take members through the proposed amendments in more detail. This slide shows the currently approved ground floor plan. Flexible Class E public house units would be located on the corner of Mark Lane and Seething Lane. The units could accommodate a range of Class E uses, including retail, cafes, restaurants, or office uses, or alternatively a public house use, depending on occupier requirements. The Bywood Street frontage would accommodate the office entrance, cycle entrance, and the Heritage and Cultural Learning Centre, which would include a tourist touchdown space, cafe, exhibition space, and access to the level 12 public viewing terrace at specified times. This slide shows the proposed ground floor arrangement. The principal change is the replacement of the approved flexible Class E public house use and the Centre for Heritage, Learning and Culture, with an enlarged office reception and arrival space. A smaller replacement public house would be provided on Seething Lane, together with the relocated cycle entrance. The tourist touchdown space and cafe would be relocated on Mark Lane, providing Wi-Fi, publicly accessible toilet facilities, a water refill fountain, and public access to the roof terrace at specified times. This slide shows the approved basement arrangement. The basement level was primarily dedicated to the building's cycle facilities. It also included ancillary space associated with the ground floor uses. This slide shows the proposed basement arrangement. The principal change is the removal of the floor space associated with the approved ground floor uses. In its place, additional office accommodation and ancillary office facilities would be provided. The application also proposes amendments to the approved cycle parking arrangements. Cycle parking and end-of-trip facilities would be increased and would remain policy compliant. In terms of assessing the proposal land use changes, this slide compares the existing arrangement, the approved Section 73 scheme, and the proposal before members today. The proposed changes would increase office floor space and provide an enhanced office arrival experience, supporting the city's objective of delivering high-quality office accommodation that would appeal to a range of occupiers. Objections have been received regarding the potential loss of retail space, the perceived reduction in active frontage, and the relocation of the cultural offer. The site is not located within a principal shopping centre or a retail link. As set out in the committee report, the scheme would result in some conflict with retail policy. Notwithstanding, officers are satisfied that the scheme would still provide active frontage through the office reception on Bywood Street, the public house on Seething Lane, and the tourist touchdown space and cafe on Mark Lane. The Bywood Street frontage would remain largely glazed, allowing views into the reception area and internal occupier amenities. The proposal would also incorporate wayfinding, artwork, and digital information displays to provide activity and interest along the street frontage, details of which would be secured by condition. Members should also note that the ground floor reception space would remain within Class E use, retaining flexibility to accommodate a range of commercial uses in the future if required, including retail use. This slide shows the approved Bywood Street elevation, which accommodates the main office entrance together with entrances to the culture and commercial uses. This slide shows the proposed Bywood Street elevation. The internal changes would result in some minor revisions to the entrance arrangements. The office entrance would be relocated to be closer to the public realm enhancements. Members should also note that there will be land dedicated to the city under Section 38 and Section 278 agreement. This slide shows the approved Seething Lane elevation with a dedicated Class E retail units together with the approved flexible Class E public house use. This slide shows the proposed Seething Lane elevation. A public house and relocated cycle entrance would be provided. The scheme ensures that a public house would be retained on the site in accordance with London Plan policy. This slide shows the approved Mark Lane elevation and the flexible Class E public house use. This slide shows the proposed Mark Lane elevation. The principal change is the introduction of a tourist touchdown space and a cafe on the Mark Lane frontage. This would provide a clearer, more legible visitor arrival point for both the cultural offer and roof terrace, particularly for visitors arriving from the Tower of London. A secondary office entrance would also be created. This slide shows a CGI of the new entrance on Bywood Street. The entrance has been designed to integrate within the approved architectural approach of the building. This slide shows a CGI of the proposed tourist touchdown space on Mark Lane and the new secondary office entrance alongside the public realm enhancements. Now on to further detail about the proposed tourist touchdown space and access to the roof terrace. This slide illustrates the approved public access route from the tourist touchdown space to the level 12 viewing terrace via the Heritage and Cultural Learning Centre. Public access would only be for 4 weekend days per month. This slide illustrates the proposed public access route to the level 12 viewing terrace via the tourist touchdown space. Public access to the terrace would be improved as part of this proposal, with access available every Saturday, Sunday, and bank holiday. This would provide a more regular and accessible arrangement than the consented scheme, supporting destination city objectives by increasing opportunities for public use of the viewing terrace. A community outreach management plan is also proposed as part of the cultural offer to secure community and education-related access to the development. The plan would secure educational workshops, skills initiatives, and engagement with schools in the City of London and neighbouring boroughs at least 4 times per year. It would also provide opportunities for local community groups to access the level 12 roof terrace at agreed times. Officers consider that these measures would deliver meaningful educational and community benefits and would continue to support the objectives of Destination City. The proposal does not alter the approved height, massing, architectural design, or materiality of the building. As a result, the level of heritage harm previously identified remains unchanged. Less than substantial harm was identified to 2 designated heritage assets. This slide shows how the development would impact on the Port of London Authority, a Grade 2 star listed building in this strategic view from London Bridge. This slide shows the impact that the proposal would have on the setting of the Grade 1 listed All Hallows Church. As is set out in the committee report, officers are satisfied that the revised package of public benefits proposed in this application is sufficient to offset the heritage harm. Such benefits include provision of a tourist touchdown space, improved access to the public viewing terrace, public realm improvements, increased office floor space, and community outreach initiatives. Now on to the conclusion. Officers consider that the revised proposal remains firmly within the scope and spirit of the consented development. Whilst the proposal would result in the loss of potential retail floor space, the amendments would support the delivery of high-quality, best-in-class office accommodation whilst retaining a vibrant public and visitor offer. The development would activate and drive footfall to this part of the city through employment for circa 3,000 office workers and the provision of a publicly accessible viewing terrace, a new public house, a tourist touchdown space, community outreach initiatives, and enhanced public realm. Officers are therefore satisfied that the proposal accords with the development plan when taken as a whole, and that the revised package of public benefits remains sufficient to offset heritage harm. Accordingly, officers recommend that planning permission be granted, subject to the completion of the deed of variation and the conditions set out within the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We now move on to the objectors, who will have the usual up to 10 minutes in total to address the meeting, and it's a total of 5 each, because I believe we have 2. Yes, that looks like we do. I've got Dr. Jane Evans and Paul Pavlou as speakers. Do let us know if that's wrong. Otherwise, you're very welcome, and we will hand over to you.
Yes, that's me, and thank you. My name is Jane Evans. I'm a resident of Tower Ward, and I have been for many, many years. And I oppose the current proposals for 47 to 50 Mark Lane. This is because I believe they do not adequately support the vision set out in the wider city plan, namely to promote the city as a cultural and leisure destination, to champion active retail at ground level, and, I paraphrase here, to tackle the city's perception as unwelcoming and not for us. Now, some of you may know that every year London hosts a festival of architecture, and this year the theme of that festival is belonging. Let's take a minute to think what belonging is. What does that mean? Who is included? Who is excluded? And who gets to decide that? Now, to me, belonging means being proud of where I live, proud to share it with visitors, tourists, workers, new residents, and to welcome new ideas and new initiatives. It makes me so happy to walk along Bywood Street and see All Hallows, to see Seething Lane Gardens, to watch the world go by, to be in an active and vibrant place, and to imagine that growing in diversity and vibrancy for years to come. To know the folk in the shops, to know the environment and the cleansing team, the local police officers, you know, the individual who keep the place clean and safe for us all. And I am very happy to welcome the new residents of this building and hope that they will share in that pride and be a part of the experience. But I want that experience as a resident to be recognised and given its full weight. We are the people on the ground. We see the vibrancy. We see the traffic of people. We see the need for shops, for retail, for cultural outlets. And we will know the feeling when that disappears. And I believe that it will. So, to come back to the proposal in front of us today, belonging is not just about rejoicing in what we have. It is about how we go forward with confidence and with intention. Passivity and catering for the needs of one group over another has no place in the way forward. I'm sure bringing the city plan, and I believe it's City Plan 2040, into existence isn't easy. I'm sure it requires dialogue, but it also requires real physical space for that to happen. And I truly believe that in 2023, the planning team got it right when they approved the original scheme. The willingness to carry through a wider vision for our Eastern City. And I have confidence in you that you will look with the same eyes at my objections, at our proposals, and you will treat them with the same confidence and with the same courage. The core themes of the city plan haven't changed. So I'm asking you now to keep them front and centre in the decision you make today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll restart the timer.
Chair, members, my name is Paul Pavlou. I'm a city worker and resident of Tower Ward and a director of the Right to Manage company at number 1 Peep Street. It's a residential building comprising 90 flats. That's about 300 feet from the site in question. So I'm speaking on behalf of the leaseholders in my building. Indeed, will echo the sentiments of the residents, the workers and the visitors who have objected to this application. In short, for a number of years, everyone's been looking forward to a revived Bywood Street. And as you heard from Jane, this proposal has made them feel all a little bit foolish and betrayed. The first thing I'd like to say is that we want this development to happen. We want Lockton to come. We want the jobs. We want the investment. We are not opposing Lockton. We are not opposing a large headquarters reception. We simply do not accept that a building of this scale on this site cannot accommodate some meaningful active frontage alongside it. The original permission was approved because officers concluded that the loss of retail frontage was offset by a package of public benefits: retained retail, heritage and cultural space, active frontage, unrestricted public access elements, and visitor facilities. Now, most of those public benefits have been watered down or gone, and that leaves a very simple question. If the original permission needed retail, heritage, and public-facing uses to justify the loss of frontage, why are those same public benefits no longer needed today? And one thing that's unsettled me, and evidently all those who have submitted objections, is the suggestion that the developer, that the moving activity to Mark Lane somehow replaces what is being lost on Bywood Street. It doesn't. Anybody who knows the area knows the difference immediately. Bywood Street is the principal frontage. It faces the Tower of London. It's the widest street. It's one of the widest streets in the Eastern City. It's where the pedestrians are, the tourists emerge, where people naturally congregate. It's the first parade you notice when you enter the Eastern City. Mark Lane is not. It's a hidden side street. It houses a gym. The applicant has repeatedly pointed to the performance of retail units over the last 20 years, but Bywood Street has been an active commercial frontage for generations. This committee is not deciding what happened over the last 20 years in an ageing building that's been awaiting demolition. It's deciding what this important gateway site should contribute over the next 100 years. And ultimately, the applicant's entire case has now narrowed down to a single proposition, that Lockton needs every square foot. Everything else is really secondary. All the retail history, Pizza Express, Starbucks, etc., etc. Ultimately, we're being asked to accept one thing, that if Lockton doesn't get all this frontage, Lockton won't come. That's the claim. So we're talking about a company that wants a 250,000 square foot European headquarters. A company that wants to double its workforce from 1,500 to 3,000, A company that wants a 20-year home. A company that has already selected this site. And we are being asked to believe that retaining a modest amount of active frontage, and it doesn't even need to be the approved 14,000 square foot, would somehow make the entire project unviable. So we struggle with that. And what I've seen is evidence of a preference. I haven't seen evidence of a necessity, because nobody has demonstrated why a building of this size can accommodate both a headquarters reception and some public-facing uses. These illustrations, they're not architectural proposals. They simply show that there is more than one way to arrange the space. And there is one final contradiction that we can't quite get past. The applicant says 3,000 employees will be in the building. Spending will increase, footfall will increase, visitors will increase. This is a £1 billion investment. Now, this is a generational opportunity, yet in the next breath we are told retail is not viable. So those two positions sit uneasily together. Major occupiers across the city successfully share their buildings with public-facing uses. M&G's headquarters at 120 Fenchurch Street, to name one, we can name many. The question is not whether coexistence is possible, it plainly is. The question is why it cannot happen here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pavlou. Okay, colleagues, it's an opportunity to ask questions of your objectors. John Fletcher, you're first.
Can I ask a question of the good doctor, please?
Could you what, sorry?
The doctor.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Doctor, you said that as a resident you felt there was a need for shops.
Yes, I do.
Could you explain exactly what's the need? And I speak now as a resident of the neighbouring ward of Portsoken, so I'm well aware of the needs of residents in the area. What shops do you feel are needed, and how can you guarantee that if these retail units are maintained, the people who occupy those units will provide for your needs?
I can only speak from experience, and I don't purport to have figures at my hand, but what I do have is real physical experience. And some of that experience comes from walking down Bywood Street every day. To give an example, yesterday I was walking down Bywood Street, and I don't know if you know, but there was a Tudor History Festival on at All Hallows. And there were two ladies coming out of All Hallows, and they had their little bag with them, and it was clear that they were going looking for something to eat, a coffee, something. And they looked over, and they said, I could hear them saying, it's such a shame that they, I assume the council, don't make more of this area. And then one of them pointed directly to Bywood Street and said, oh, look, maybe next time we come, there will be shops. Maybe we can go and get a coffee. That is one example. I have examples of seeing families, little kids, you know, going along, and the families want tissues, they want Haribos, you know, they want something simple. They don't want a massive 3-course meal. They don't want necessarily to go to a pub. They want those little conveniences, those little amenities. I want those little amenities. I wake up and I think, oh, I need a pint of milk, or I need tissue paper, something like that. And I go to Tesco's, or I get on a train more likely and go somewhere else. When we had the original Little Off licence, I went there. When my daughter was younger, we went to Pizza Express. We went to the little art centre that was there. It is used. It is used by visitors. It is used by myself. It is used by the people I live around. And one thing that is very difficult to quantify is that it is a community. I don't know if you know...
Sorry, Madam, could you start to wind up, please?
Of course,
Thank you very much.
It is a community, and cities all over the world are looking for little communities, little community spaces. Bywood Street is that community ready and waiting to be taken on. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the question, John. Any more questions? Okay, there are none. Thank you both very much for coming and speaking today. We appreciate your time. I'm now going to invite the supporters and applicants to come to the lectern. I have Mr. Hugh Griffiths and Mr. Michael Kerridge. And gentlemen, as a reminder, the total time for you both is 10 minutes. You each have a maximum of up to 5 minutes, and we have the traffic light system running when you start talking.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Following a long search and having discounted a series of many options, we're delighted that Lockton's have chosen the Mark as their new international headquarters. It's a long-term commitment for 20 years and possibly longer. Many people may not know, but Lockton's business journey in the City of London began on 2 Stephen Lane as a small office. They've since grown, and now they want to come back to the area, which we think is just a mark of how the city has managed to grow and incubate such companies and retain them, hopefully, for the long term. I'm afraid I also need to be clear this afternoon that a rejection is not a reset of the existing Section 73 planning application. I'll explain the reasons set out below, but generally the ground floor needs to change in order for this development to progress. So for a little more context, in order to meet Lockton's timescales, we've started a preparation for demolition on site with a view to start next Monday, 16th of June. If planning is deferred or rejected, then we stop. If we stop, Lockton's timescales may not be achievable, funding could disappear, the scheme will not progress, and Lockton's alternative business options can lay outside the City of London. I think in terms of the purchase, so we purchased the building in 1960, the 1960 building in 2021. The office is 50% vacant. Of the ground floor, there are 7 units that face onto Bywood Street. Only 2 were operating, one a small news agents and one was Pizza Express. Round the corner on Stephen Lane, the Stephen Tap existed and traded. Market evidence has demonstrated that Retail Parade experienced a checkered history of letting, and most occupiers over 20 years have been mainly food and beverage outlets, and many have sustained to maintain the business and survive. In terms of other alternatives around, then there's food and beverage to the left of us, there's food and beverage to the right of us, behind us, in front of us, around the tower. We do not believe that this is an area that is short of those retail offerings. I'd also like to emphasise the point that lawful planning use of the existing retail space is Class C, and as of today it could be converted to office accommodation. The planning permission was granted in 2003, and to date we have not implemented this. It expires in 2023. As the committee may fully appreciate, it's an extremely tough and economic climate, and we really do need a high degree of confidence through future lettings in order to progress this development. The scheme is on the cusp of being viable. We're very committed to delivering offices here, but it's very challenging. Notwithstanding this difficult market, we did have some interest from pre-lets previously prior to lockdown as a whole, and into splitting the building into two. The prime feedback given for not taking the space was poor ground floor arrangement experience, namely that reception did not provide the required presence for a headquarters type building. There was concern over being flanked by a tourist facility and two food and beverage units on either side of the building, which was perceived to overwhelm the reception. The result being, as consented, we're unable to provide the occupiers with what occupiers required, and sadly they went elsewhere. So following a prolonged and largely unsuccessful marketing period, Lockton came along to discuss with us taking the building as their new international headquarters as a whole let. But to achieve this, and entirely in line with feedback from the market previously, they needed a better presence on the ground floor. They needed a minimum of 250,000 square foot, which we can only achieve by using some of the retail. And they wanted to introduce new working concepts on the ground floor where they can introduce a business cafe lounge alongside a vibrant reception. This is a new way of working with business where their brokers can meet clients and discuss in a degree of privacy business activities rather than taking people up through the building and going through security. So Lockton presents a real opportunity to enable the mark to be developed now, and is entirely consistent with the city's vision for a new, thriving, quality, long-term insurance occupier in this location. It's bang-on policy, and will also support Destination City by filling a blank spot in the fabric of the city with an architecturally superb building with its public benefits that have been mentioned to you earlier. The benefits will include better roof access and a community outreach programme, and Lockton as a company are very keen to engage with the local community. They certainly don't intend to turn their back on the local community. They just need the space to be able to operate and expand and grow their business as required.
Can you wrap up, sir? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're now going to move on to the second speaker. If you could introduce yourself, and then we'll start your 5 minutes then.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Lockton. You may not be aware, but Lockton is a private organisation. We're not public, and we've a reasonable turnover of 14–15 billion pounds of work that's placed into the Lloyd's market, and us as an insurance broker that's been in the city, as Hugh said, and been in Seething Lane 26 years ago when I joined the business, and we left there simply because the building at that point wasn't big enough for our growth at that point, and we were in Knowledge House as well, the building that precedes this one. We were looking for some time for an international headquarters for our business. We're also looking for a global one over in Kansas at the same time as well. And it's a particularly challenging environment for us here in the city at the moment because there's a shortage of quality accommodation coming to the market in timescales that meets our lease exit in 2030. We've looked at a number of potential sites here in the city. As members may be aware from other conversations and communications earlier today and over the weekend, we looked at 50 Fenchurch Street and we looked at others. They were not suitable for us. We had to make a very detailed operational and financial investment decision in the property that we needed. We found the mark in 24, ideal location, with scope to support our business now and our needs to grow, and we've been in negotiations with Hobart and with the landlord team since then. The building provides multiple opportunities. As we said, returning to where we started, we recognise the city has an importance in being a national and international place of growth. It's the right scale of accommodation. It's grade A, it's good, it's brilliant, it's what we need. We have to invest in our staff, and our staff are our assets. The space supports their work in the marketplace and our ability to grow and attract the 1,500 growth that you and others have mentioned. Those people will facilitate, obviously, significant spend in the area itself. However, it's vitally important that we provide the right arrival experience for our staff and clients. The building, as originally intended and was put to us, did not meet those needs. It was set up as a multiple occupation building with a small entrance on the front with sub-receptions on other floors. We need to have arrival space for people to arrive safely, in a controlled manner, in the volume that we're expecting, and be dealt with in a professional manner, similar to other brokerages around us that do have large receptions. They do have flexible space for meetings. It means you don't have to go deep into the building to have those casual meetings. And it provides the coffee and it provides the other facilities that people expect when they're coming to meet an international business in an international organisation in an international location. It will be vibrant. It will have people there. But it's got to be right for us. There's not a choice. We can't have a halfway house. It has to meet the needs that the business has set out for itself. The building has been presented to us after the revisions that Hugh and his team have done, does exactly that. We've been delighted to work with your officers and with Bridge and Hobart and Partners to bring forward these revisions to support us in finding our new long-term home on a 20-year lease, but we expect to be there probably longer than that as well, and secure the wider benefits which Hugh's already described. I can't say more than that. I'm not a planner. I'm an occupier. I've got a team of people that want to be in this building. They're excited by it, but it needs to meet their needs. And I would recommend to the committee, please support Lockton's investment in this building, in this location, help Hobart deliver an asset to the area and bring it back to life. Because if it's not this building, we will have to go elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, do we have any questions of the applicants or supporters? I'll just take Jackie and then Marianne.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just interested in how you have been liaising and interacting with the local community. And I'm not talking about just the standard engagement, but what conversations have taken place? Has there been an in-depth conversation with some of the objectors who are here today in terms of redesign of this space? Thank you.
Yes, so I think originally the two schemes went through as delegated authority, and I think since we submitted a scheme to the planning officers, and then we had a small exhibition in All Hallows, 2 nights on the trot. There were 8 attendees, I think, all objectors at the time, over the two nights. We've had a further meeting with some of the residents and some of the local councillors this Friday to discuss some of the outstanding issues. So yes, there's been consultation.
Thank you. Marianne Fredericks.
I just wanted to have some clarity. Lockton's is an insurance broker. Therefore, I assume that you would have to stay in close to Lloyd's rather than move out of the City of London. Would that be correct?
I can only speak in terms of the numbers of people I need to accommodate as the head of property for the business. The market is the Lloyd's building and the others around it. We have to work with that. It is one of the best places to place insurance in the world, and we want to help the Lloyd's market be that strong market. It needs to have vibrancy in terms of the quality of people bringing the risks into the market. It needs to have good people bringing management to the people that are bringing the risks to us to come into the marketplace. To do that, we need the right people working in the right way to strengthen the position of the Lloyd's market. There are always others out there willing to invest in other countries and place markets elsewhere. We want to make sure that Lockton, in its contribution to the insurance community in London, is bringing the best people into our business in the right way to work with Lloyd's. And being part of the Lloyd's Market Association and BIBA and the other things that go on inside the business, that demonstrates our commitment to the professional side. We also have and I haven't got the details in front of me, so sorry, but we have an outreach programme that also goes into the community existing that we're doing where we are at the moment with, with schools, bringing the youth into our business to give them the opportunity to see what the insurance market is about, to encourage them to look at opportunities where insurance isn't glamorous. It's essential. It underpins society, and people don't know a lot about what goes on. So we're helping that with the different sixth forms, with the children we bring in. And we've got particular people that have given Hugh and Hobart information about that. We want to be part of the community. That's us. It's what Lockton thrives on.
It helps my father and grandfather are insurance brokers, and I married one, so I know all about insurance. But my point was, you will be staying close to Lloyd's because you're an insurance broker.
Absolutely.
Not leaving the city, not leaving the country, staying
That would be the option for others to decide in our business. This meets our needs. If it doesn't, others have to make decisions.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Marianne. Liz King.
Just a quick one. Both of the supporters of the application mentioned the cafe bar inside where you could have private conversations. How does that fit with Destination City and supporting our SMEs and food and beverage and all the other small businesses across the city if you're going to keep it all in-house?
Yes. I'm not a planner, so I would suggest maybe the planning officers could advise on that particular committing.
Sorry, you said that it supported Destination City.
Yeah, well, I think we feel the introduction of 3,000 new people in this area is going to add a lot to local businesses. There's a lot of spending power there. There'll be a lot more people attending this area day in, day out. I think, you know, at the moment, and I think we have issued a report to the Plan Committee previously, there's no shortage of F&B or businesses or sandwich shops around the area. There's a Marks and Spencer's at Fenchurch Street. I think there's a little Waitrose down at Monument Street. And, you know, the general trend is that a lot of these people will kind of gravitate around kind of transport nodes. But, you know, the people from this office will be out in the community spending money and encouraging other businesses to open up along Mark Lane and other places around, we believe. So, does that answer your questions? Is that?
I think that's fine, sir. Thank you very much. Thanks for the question, Liz. Okay, let's move on then. I'm going to ask Aaron de Souza to please come to the lectern. Aaron is a member for Tower who's not on planning and has the opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes. Aaron, I think you have a presentation, is that right?
I do, yes. Can I also check before I start the clicker works as well?
Yeah, of course.
So
we'll start the time when you start talking, don't worry.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hold on a minute. Just assuming the right button. Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Chair. Committee, I stand before you to unfortunately object against the proposed amendments to the Mark Lane development. I want to acknowledge the recent engagement by the applicant and the proposed tenant Lockton, who met with residents, Deputy Fredericks and myself on Friday, with officers also present. I'm grateful to Lockton for showing why they chose the Mark, but I understand that 50 Fen is still very much a live option. The good news is that Lockton will be staying in the city. I find I have little choice but to object to the amended scheme, because it considerably diminishes the very public benefits that were relied upon to justify the original approval, namely the loss of 1,105 square metres of ground floor public benefit through retail and a cultural and heritage learning centre. To remind committee members, the existing site has at ground floor level 8 retail units and a public house. The 1960s building has provided much needed retail for workers, residents and visitors. Just imagine the potential commercial value and vibrancy that a mixed-use refurbished building would provide the city, given the footfall that occurs outside the Mark every day. Not just Monday to Friday, but every day, 7 days a week. Because the site occupies one of the principal gateways into the city, near a close-knit community of 400 residents, which will increase to 2,000 to 3,000 residents after new developments, soon to be over 2,000 students and millions of tourists. The tower you see today will not be the same as the tower of tomorrow. The City Plan 2040, Strategic Policy S20, identifies tower as a key area of change and acknowledges the need to balance workers' interest alongside residents and visitors, including encouraging local retail facilities. In this light, the approved original scheme was appropriate and ambitious. It provided in-demand, world-class office space, public access, cultural engagement via Cultural and Heritage Learning Centre, active street frontage via 3 sizable retail units, one of them over 2 floors, and a meaningful contribution to Destination City. That is why, despite the loss of some active retail frontage, we did not stand in the way. We welcomed the investment, the office space, and the ambition. That is why permission was granted, and that is why we were genuinely excited with what was about to come next. And that is precisely why these amendments matter. The officer's report supporting the original application could not have been clearer. The loss of retail frontage would ordinarily have been resisted under planning policy, especially for an identified retail link such as Bywood Street. Officers concluded, however, that this was acceptable because it would be offset by retained retail provision, active frontages, a public house, and the Cultural and Heritage Learning Centre. In other words, the public benefits were not an afterthought. They were part of the justification. They were part of the balance. They were part of the deal. But that deal no longer exists. City Plan 2040 Strategic Policy S5 states that the city will seek to make retail areas more vibrant and work with landowners, operators, and other partners to enrich the ground floor economy, improving the quantity and quality of retailing and the retail environment that provide active and publicly accessible frontages at street level across the city. Policy RE2 confirms the loss of existing active frontage uses will be resisted. On all fronts, I don't understand how these amendments are compatible with City Plan 2040. Active retail frontage has disappeared from the front of the building. Only a small pub remains on the side. Hidden on the other side of the street, a scaled-down tourist touchdown with small cafe has replaced the promised Cultural and Heritage Learning Centre. Officers have told me that city's retail and other ground floor economy businesses are supported by footfall that comes from office occupiers. So a mixed-use scheme will not only work, but will also ensure that retail thrives. Our own Destination City dashboard shows that footfall has increased by 9%, and transaction volumes have increased by 7% over the last year. This is not an area in decline, but it's one that is becoming busier, more vibrant, and more economically active. Destination City cannot simply be a slogan. It must be built into our buildings. This is a chance to show that there is substance behind our words. In conclusion, I ask you to also object to this amended scheme and refer it back for further consideration to understand how we can reinstate retail units along Bywood Street. If these amendments had been proposed as the original scheme, I'm confident that officers would not have supported approval. The original scheme recognised that this prominent gateway to the city should continue to contribute to the city through ground floor retail, through proper cultural and heritage engagement, and through enhanced public access. That is what any amended scheme should remain faithful to. Thank you, members, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Aaron. Bang on time. Thank you. Okay, colleagues, any questions for Aaron? Deputy Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Aaron, for a fantastic presentation. You may not be aware, but committee members received an email from Chris O'Halloran, Global Chief Operating Officer for Lockton, which contends with your assertion that 50 Fen is very much still in consideration. I'm going to read out his note for the benefit of everybody in the room.
Thank you.
For the benefit of the committee...
Did you say it was an email sent today, did you say?
Yes.
Okay.
For the benefit of the committee, I wanted to emphasise that we are focused on becoming the sole office tenant at 47 and 50 Mark Lane for the next 20 years, and for the building to become our new international HQ, subject to securing the revisions which will be presented to the committee today, Monday the 8th of June. We have looked at a number of alternative premises, both within and without the square mile, including 50 Fenchurch Street, prior to meeting the Mark Lane development team, but ultimately discounted the alternatives, as we wish to secure sole tenancy for a building, which is why 47 and 50 Mark Lane was appropriate for our long-term needs. Do you agree with the Chief Operating Officer that that is their demand for 47 and 50 Mark Lane?
I'm surprised to hear that that was his representation of the whole meeting. When we met with him on Friday afternoon, this was at 3:30 till 4:30 p.m. on Friday, he did mention that they had considered 50 Fen and the Mark, and they had chosen the Mark for the requirements that the proposers had outlined. They fulfill their objectives. They have a growth trajectory of adding 1,500 jobs. They were going to add an auditorium. They're going to add some other office space. When we were discussing the application further, one of the residents, Dr. Jen Evans, had mentioned about what she spoke to today about belonging and whether and to be brave in terms of the proposal being set forward to potentially give us at least some retail units on the front. In response to that, he said that he was not being made to feel welcome. And he said that if he did not feel welcome in the Mark, he would go to 50 Fen. I was a bit taken aback. I said, 50 Fen? He said, yes, we are looking at 50 Fen. I think concrete has been poured. I said, well, that's still in Tower. And he interpreted that as that I was going to object to that. And he said, well, that's been approved. I said, well, no, I'm glad because you're still in Tower. You're still in my ward. And that's why I remember it vividly, the full conversation. So you're right, that email does represent what was said in the meeting, but not the full extent of the conversation that happened afterwards. And that's why I would never mislead the committee. That is why I have asserted that 50 Fen is still an active option. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw Liz King.
That's what I've said.
Thank you, Miriam. John Fletcher, and then Liz.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron, as you know, I live in the area just right over the border there, so I'm very familiar with the area. And being a residential ward that I represent, I'm very keen to make sure residents don't suffer or have anything go wrong for them. But these shops have been closed for some time, haven't they?
These shops, my understanding is they were still operating until about early this year. Rap Chic, I know, was around. Some units have moved out Starbucks Pret, having been there for over 10 years. You know,
okay, so it's not been fully occupied for some time. And as we all know, the area is awash with shops. We've got Co-ops, we've got Tesco's Express, we've got Sainsbury's, we've got everything we want. There are lots of little corner shops, off-licence type things. And indeed, cafes on almost every corner. I heard what the doctor said about the need for retail, or she believed, for more retail for residents. But I honestly can't see that what's lacking at the moment and how a few more units along Bywood Street would make any difference to what is already a very good provision. And I also can't see that residents would really suffer, because it strikes me from what people have said, with 3,000, potentially 3,000 more workers in the offices and tourists in the area, that these units might well be aimed at office workers and tourists and not at residents. So can you just confirm for me whether or not you genuinely feel residents will suffer if these retail units are not kept?
I do genuinely feel that, John. Your area of Port Soaken, which I know is on the Man Street, we know each other very well. I think this retail parade is targeting a different type of customer base. I mentioned that we're expecting 2,000, 3,000 residents in Tower on the Minories. These are co-living spaces for workers who don't want to do the commute. So they're going to be short-term during the week. They're going to be staying there. And the whole point, that the proposition of those developments is that so they can go into the city, walk back along, get up there, get their food, whatever they want to do, and go back home. I have to admit, I don't want to debate what's going to go in these retail units, but I do think that there is a place for different types to think imaginatively about what could be in that retail parade. I'll give you a story. I was at the Four Seasons, just right next door, and they have a lot of weddings, a lot of events, and some of their clients poured wine on their shirt. It was red, and they couldn't find another shirt because there's nothing around. They have to go to Leadenhall Market. They have to go into the city. That's a 10-15-minute walk. So there's ways to think imaginatively about what retail could be, and that's what I really want from this application. It could be pioneering, it could be imaginative. We don't need the whole thing. It's not necessarily saying, hey, we just want convenience in retail. Let's think about what we could do. You know, I look at Bloomberg Arcade.
Aaron, could you try and restrict your answers to the questions? Thank you.
Are there time restrictions to my answers? Is that a policy?
So no, just I'm just responsible for good order, and you're perhaps going on a little long in that answer.
I'd like to apply with that full thing if there's no restrictions. That's okay.
Well, I would like you to sum up your answer, please.
Okay. So I look at other parts of the city. Bloomberg Arcade, Broadgate Circle in your ward, Mr. Chairman, and what that's doing for workers who are sitting right on top of these retailers. This is what we could do with this parade. It could be the Lockton Arcade. That could be the next destination in Tower Ward for the applicant. That's what I'd like to see from Lockton. That's genuine working with the community.
Thank you, Aaron. I have a question. One of the objectors earlier on, I think it was Dr. Evans, talked about quite specific types of retail units that were there and had been enjoyed. And I understand now, which I hadn't quite realised, that they are now shut on site. So, how do you contend you get the shops that you want, given that market rate is quite high, business rates are quite high? You could just end up with Pretz or... I mean, is there... well, it's not a question to you, Marianne. I'm curious about...
I've thought about this...
Yeah, I thought you might have thought about it.
I have thought about this long and hard as well. When I read the Knight Frank report, which tried to show non-viability, my understanding of the report, and it's difficult, I'm not an expert in reading these reports, was that they had marketed this as a one-year lease. My understanding of freedom, like for any retailer, you need a 5-year lease. You know, 1 year, you're getting yourself ready to go. Seeing, is it viable? How do I meet the customer's needs? Then you go ahead. So I think, you know, number one, I feel like the marketing that's showing non-viability is not accurate. Number two, your own officer, Peter Wilson, sent to me on Friday a nice email detailing about retail, and he mentioned that, as I said in my speech, city occupiers, office occupiers of buildings support the retail underneath it. So if we get locked in a building that has a fantastic entrance, gives them the reception and the gravitas that they need, these retail units are going to thrive. It's going to be great for the office workers. We've got Marsh across the road of 6,000 workers who are looking for new options. I think this area is going to just explode. When the applicant got, I have to question, why did the applicant put forward the approved scheme in 2023 when we know the economic environment was even more unstable and didn't know what was happening post-COVID? Now we know it's likely that people...
Thank you, Aaron. I think you've answered my question. No, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Liz King.
This is the point. Why was this approved scheme?
Aaron, thank you. Liz King.
Thank you. I guess well, we're talking about the viability of retail. I mean, as someone who walks around the city a lot, I mean, it is so visible from the Tower of London as one of our greatest tourist destinations that you've actually, there is a parade of shops that will then drag you further up, you know, towards Leadenhall Market, towards St. Paul's Cathedral, because it'll draw you across that road as opposed to looking at a big nothing of offices. And I think that's where I think the big opportunity is for retail and just improving for all the residents. Can you just touch on why the GLA mentioned the Culture Heritage Center touchdown zone, whatever it is, and why that was an issue for them? Yeah. I don't quite understand.
Well, I remember in the original application, the GLA report said that they wanted the applicant to explore the potential of providing affordable workspace, but given that it had the Cultural and Heritage Learning Centre, this offset it, and then the enhanced retail, improved public location, this offset it made the plan acceptable. I remember when I was just reading the responses, they said that the city should reassess the heritage balance given the loss of the Cultural and Heritage Centre, and if we were okay with the trade-off with the loss of that centre to the tourist touchdown, and whether this outweighs the harm in accordance with NPPF, which actually I don't know what NPPF is, but it sounds very official. So that's so therefore that's what I'm saying. That's what we're saying at the access. This amended scheme is not the same as what was being approved in the past.
Aaron, thank you very much, and thank you for answering all of our questions. I'm going to move now on to our questions of the officers regarding the report that they presented to you today. Oh, did you have a question for Aaron? Oh, I beg your pardon, Marianne, I missed your hand. Sorry, Aaron, if you can come back. Marianne has a question for you.
Sorry. I understand that you asked the developer for a copy of the Knight Frank reports, which assess the viability of retail along that frontage. Are you able to expand? I couldn't get onto the planning portal. It's been sent to me this morning, but I haven't had time. Could you expand what that report actually said? And I think it was actually carried out after the shops had closed, the temporary shops. But could you give us a rationale for why they believe that Bywood Street, given all the things that you have just said and its location, is not a viable space for retail? Thank you.
Well, from my reading of the report, and again, I'm not an expert reading these type of reports, but from the summary of the report, it admitted that the building was tired, inefficient, and needed redevelopment. I think we all could see the building, the original pictures. It needs to be redeveloped. I don't know what was proposed through Knight Frank to when they went out to market, whether it was going to say, look, here is a new scheme, we're going to give you X amount of years. I do know that those businesses that were existing were on monthly rolling leases. So can you imagine being a business owner, knowing that you've got 1 month's notice to close your business and move somewhere else? And I think that's why Starbucks didn't leave the area, they moved across the road towards the Tower of London. Pret was in the area. I can't speculate into how Knight Frank have done this report, but they acknowledged that there were some limitations, tiredness, etc. of the building. And quite frankly, with an area which is the gateway city, you've got Tower of London, Tower Bridge, you've got people walking back and forth. I used to live in Wapping, coming into the Guildhall, going back to Wapping. I walk across Byward Street every single day. I don't understand how that, with 3,000 new workers, 6,000 across the road at Marsh, plus the whole vicinity, all these visitors visiting Trinity, Four Seasons, our very good hotels, Hilton, Apex, Novotel, would not use whatever's being put into those retail units.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. You may take your seat now.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time and coming here today. And I'm going to move this to questions of officers of the report. Looking around. Deputy Chairman and then Deborah Oliver.
Thank you, Chair. Can officers clarify the policy position on the retail space and whether the site is within a retail link? Thank you.
This is fully set out in the report. The site is not within a principal shopping centre or within a retail link. One of the original report for the application that assessed the development did include reference to the site being within a retail link. That was in conjunction with the City Plan 2036, which has now been superseded by the City Plan 2040. And in the City Plan, the emerging City Plan, the site is not within a retail link, and the reference to retail links has been removed from the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Oliver.
Thank you. I was wanting to ask about the public access to the roof terrace. I hadn't appreciated that the original proposal had a very restricted access for the public to use the roof terrace. Can you perhaps explain why that you're sort of promoting having the increased public access and how it might actually work? Will there be sort of the need for staff and extra security and suicide prevention measures? I'm not quite clear, but I do think that increased public access to the terrace is a good thing. Perhaps just a little bit more background, please.
Thank you. So as set out in the report, the consented scheme has access to the roof terrace 4 weekend days per month. We consider a benefit of the proposed scheme to be the increased access, whereby it would be Saturdays and Sundays every weekend and bank holidays. Suicide prevention measures have been included and details would be conditioned, and there would be a management plan for access to the terrace.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question kind of very similar on that, which is, I guess, the calculation you have made as officers and we're being asked to make is the original scheme had some minor amount of heritage harm that was identified, and then that was more than offset by the cultural offer, the roof terrace, etc. That's now been amended on the other side of the balance sheet, and your assessment is actually it is still sufficient to outweigh. And I think in part of that, that's due to the increased access to the roof garden, the cafe, the pub still in place, and so on. So I think that's the calculus we're being asked to do. Could you just confirm that that's the calculation you did, and that you're confident that policy-wise the offer in the round still outweighs the harm that the original scheme identified?
Yes, that is the case. Officers do still consider that that package of public benefits being proposed in this scheme outweighs the heritage harm and supersedes that package of benefits previously proposed. So the increased access to the roof terrace is seen to be a significant benefit in that those access hours would be more logical than what was previously approved, clearer for people, and would allow that roof terrace to become an established destination for people to visit in the city, and that would offset that loss of that heritage and learning centre. And that the community outreach plan also proposed and secured through the deed of variation would secure community and education related access to the development for skills, training and schools access, in addition to that roof level access increase.
Great, thank you very much. Any more questions for officers? Marianne Fredericks.
Thank you, Chair. When I look at the back of the report for the relevant local plans that you've listed, I can't see local plan DM 20.3, which says resist the loss of small groups of retail floor space which provide an active frontage. And I mention this because going back to the original report drafted by the officer for the original application, they pointed out about the loss of retail, which was the 8 units going down to the 2 larger ones and the pub, that it fell under the local plan DM 20.3, resist loss of small groups of retail with active frontage. And it also mentioned that it was a retail link, but you've just clarified that. So I just wondered why it wasn't listed in the relevant planning policies that the officer has assessed this scheme by. It's not listed. Thank you. Oh, can I ask another one whilst they're looking? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Because it's all a bit confusing in terms of the different applications and the layouts that they've had, I just wanted to have some clarity. So, when we talk about the consented scheme, we talk about the scheme that was granted in 2023, where there were no objections, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but the consented scheme had the 27,888 square metres of office space, and it had the Heritage and Cultural Learning Centre, which was 393 square metres, and that also incorporated a 140 square metre minimum touchdown. It then also had, in terms of the public benefits, the roof terrace. So you had the roof terrace where you could have 60 people at any one time, 4 weekend days a month, so that's 48 weekend days. In addition to that roof access, there was roof access from 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday to Friday. This is all on page 209, 2010. And that was for access for educational purposes and the local community. You had the public house, and then you also had the flexible retail unit. So I just want to make sure that I've got that correct, because you then had a section 73, the first section 73, which increased the heights on the western elevation. And in doing so, that created more harm, heritage harm. And when we're talking heritage harm, I think the original officer's report was really comprehensive. It outlines all the heritage and harms and effects it has. And it's not just the church, it's not just the PLA building, it's the Tower of London. There's a whole list. If you look at Mrs. Skinner had the original report attached. So it goes from about 200.
Sorry, could you come to a question, please?
292, all the way through to about 300. And that lists all the heritage. So I want to know why. So the section 106, the first section 73, increased the harm of the heritage, which was identified by the GLA. And for that, if I've read this correctly, you increased the space for the Heritage and Cultural Centre. That was increased in size, and you can see that on page 213. You can see that the culture and heritage...
So, Marianne, can you come to a question, please?
because I want to make sure that we're all talking on the same page here. This is very complicated, and it's also very important that we actually
I know.
get the
I was
facts
only
right.
asking you
So,
politely
thank
to
you.
come to a question. Thank you.
So, because the harm was increased with that first Section 73, you, from what I've read from this report, you increased the heritage and cultural space to compensate for that. So that was the compensation for the first 73. Is that correct? Yeah? Okay.
Sorry, thank you, Marianne. And just clarify your first question on retail uses elsewhere in the city. That is cited within the policy context preamble for consideration of land uses at paragraph 42, is then further mentioned at paragraph 46, 48 and 51, and then overall consideration of the accordance with the policies listed at paragraph 54.
Mariana, just to clarify just about the heritage harm issue. So in the first application, officers actually only identified harm to All Hallows and Port of London Authority in terms of setting. The GLA did raise some concerns around the Tower of London. That report was very detailed in explaining why officers reached a different professional conclusion compared to the GLA. The GLA then did not make any comments in relation to the subsequent Section 73. They had no objections or concerns. And in the current application, again, they haven't raised any issues in relation to the Tower of London. So the heritage harm that we are looking to offset with this series of public benefits is just in terms of a slight level of less than substantial harm to the Port of London Authority as you cross London Bridge in the LVMF view, and then also as regards that southern viewing experience looking north, All Hallows, and that's a very low level of less than substantial harm. So it's just those two, and that's been consistent all the way through the applications. It did increase ever so slightly under the second Section 73.
Okay, so after the first Section 73, the Heritage and Cultural Centre increased in size from 330 square metres with 140 square metres for tourist touchdown to 393 square metres with a minimum of 160 square metres. So it increased because the height increased on that building. So that was offsetting the harm. Thank you.
Was that a question? Sorry. Are we waiting for an answer?
That's correct, that the package of benefits increased given that there was a slight increase in the harm.
Great, thank you. I have Adam Hogg now.
Thank you. Retail is all about location, and I notice in the summary of the report here that the applicant has provided robust justification, including marketing evidence, to justify the loss of the retail units. I've gone through this part. I've failed totally to find what this justification was. Could I possibly be helped as what the marketing evidence was from the applicant to justify the loss of the retail space?
Thank you.
In support of the application, the applicants did submit a Knight Frank report. This detailed information about the existing retail units and how they have been occupied over the last few years and their vacancy for some of the units. It also included some information about the applicant's marketing exercise, which started in 2023 and gave officers details of some of the feedback that was received from that marketing campaign. And that's set out in paragraph 47 of the report. It details how some of the feedback received included that occupiers wanted more of an arrival experience to the building, and that the food, beverage and heritage centre compromised the reception space relative to the lettable office area.
Okay, thank you. I think we're coming to the debate stage now, colleagues. I guess, I'm not sure, Adam, if you've been on before, but this is an opportunity for if we wish to debate before we move to a vote on motions. Colleagues, Marianne has her hand up.
Well, it might be a question for the officers as well.
Okay.
So I am equally as confused as the objectors in that we started off with the most fantastic scheme. Honestly, it was a dream. It was everything you could possibly want. You've got the oldest church in the City of London is All Hallows, older than the Tower of London. You've got the Tower of London, you've got the Porcelain building, you've got all the visitors coming, and here we are having an opportunity, and it's an opportunity we all supported. There were no objections to this scheme at all, not a single objection. We completely bought into the dream because it was providing brand new AAA office space, a roof terrace, the heritage and cultural space with a cafe, the touchdown, which is, I suppose, your lobby that takes you up to the roof. The retail units, which you've heard, and I think it's probably best to take the experience of people who've used them, lived there, know what it's like. I think the Knight Frank report was written after they closed, and it was just dealing with the small units that were there on a very short lease, 1 month rolling, and it wasn't indicative of how successful the retail has been at that area and is elsewhere in the city. And of course, that's part of our policies, is actually encouraging retail, because we want people to stay in the city and party, live in the city, and everything else that goes with it. So that mix, that vibrant mix, is a part of our policies, is important. So the scheme was sold to us, and I thought I was losing my marbles, but I'm not. Because I remember at the original consultation event being told that there would be Monday to Friday access of the roof terrace, not just the weekend, because I couldn't believe that I would have let slip just 2 weekends a month of public access. Couldn't believe that. So I was really delighted when I read in the report on page 210 that roof access was 9 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock, Monday to Friday, for the local community and educational purposes. And then in addition, the weekend offering. When the first section 73 notice came over and we met with the developers and they wanted to raise the height of the western elevation of the building, which would have a greater impact, particularly on All Hallows, Grade 1 listed church, but also the Tower of London were concerned. But again, we did not object because we knew the benefits that would be coming with this scheme, not just for the occupier, but for the wider community, for Destination City, with a gateway from Tower Bridge and the East End. It was a great opportunity. I am concerned, and I can't quite work out how we've gone from approving the original scheme and the Section 73, increasing the space for the Culture and Heritage Centre, to completely losing the Culture and Heritage Centre. That's gone completely. The Monday to Friday roof access has gone completely, and we've now got just the weekend access. So it's actually a loss, not a net gain. So I can't understand how officers have been able to suggest that an increase of office space by 1,198 square metres is an uplift, a gain, whereas the complete loss of the Heritage Centre and the public access to the roof isn't even mentioned. And so it hasn't, the balance against the harm and the proposals of moving the Heritage Centre and the retail, in my view, haven't been balanced correctly because they haven't taken into account the complete loss of the Heritage and Cultural Centre and the complete loss of the Monday to Friday rooftop terrace access. And so I do question whether or not we've properly assessed the harm versus the public benefit, and even that's just on the heritage side, and then you get the retail, loss of retail. So can officers explain why they haven't taken into account when they've, on page 224 and 243, where you've weighed up that the original office accommodation was moderate rates, the Cultural and Heritage Centre was moderate rates, but that's not been included when it's been removed. So you haven't actually taken away the negative. You can't do sums like that. It doesn't add up. You can't remove two really important things that balance the harm and provided the public benefits, completely strip them away and not mention them as a loss. And I can't believe that that small increase of office space, it's now gone up, it's increased to a more of a moderate, has it gone up? It's gone up in weight. So perhaps officers can explain why they haven't taken into account the complete stripping out of the Heritage Cultural Centre from the scheme, the Monday to Friday viewing for the public on the terrace, and why they still think, having stripped all that away, this is acceptable. Because we fought hard.
That was a great question. Thank you. I think it was a relative. I gave you a very long time to ask a question, Marianne.
5 seconds.
Of course.
We fought hard for public benefits. Officers fight hard on our behalf to ensure public benefits. And if it's simply the case that a developer can come forward and say, I've got this report, I can't market it, I can't do this.
Okay, can we put the question now? Because I think we might lose the thread of it if we don't put it.
We are on a slippery
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Marianne. There's a question there for you, officers, around the weighting of benefits and harm.
Yes, thank you. I mean, members will be aware that this is covered in great detail within the officer's report, in particular the table that commences on page 210 of your pack, which sets out the 3 different schemes, the original, Section 73, and the item that's before you today. The Monday to Friday roof terrace access is exclusively, or was exclusively, consented for educational groups. It was not public access. The size of the ground floor space and its usage is seen in the round and is taken into consideration within the balancing exercise towards the end of the report, taking all material considerations and the development plan as a whole into account. I need to remind members of the committee the decision before you today is not which schemes you would prefer to come forward. It is whether the scheme that is before you accords with the development plan in place, including the London plan, and all material considerations. Policies will naturally move in different directions, and those tensions you'll be well aware of. Officers have concluded that the heritage harm that has been identified in great depth in this current report is outweighed by the public benefits that are secured in this scheme. Previous schemes' public benefits are summarised within the report. However, what is before you is whether the public benefits that are identified within this development outweigh the heritage harms that have been identified. It is officers' view that they do, and it's not a matter of making a determination of which of the 3 applications you would wish to have implemented by the applicant.
Thank you. Okay, John Edwards. We're in the debate phase now.
Debate phase? Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Oh, sorry, before you go, John, I'll be happy to extend the meeting. We're at the time where we need to ask your permission. Thank you very much. John.
It's my opinion that retail and F&B is not well positioned in a newly furbished office building or, for instance, a new building. I mean, what we should be doing is encouraging retail and F&B to go to older heritage buildings in protected areas in particular that can't refurbish to a modern office, struggle to find a reason to exist. And F&B in particular is a great way of using them because they have character. Leadenhall Market is a classic example. It's only 7 minutes walk from this office. I think we should be encouraging people who work in offices to get out of their office and go and walk to get a haircut, get a sandwich, get a drink, not stay in the same building. So we were not part of the initial application, but I would have protested at the beginning because we don't like anymore this idea of building an office and having everything in it. And we want people to get out, to enjoy the other parts of the city and support SMEs that are struggling in older buildings that have no other application anyway, and in particular, the older buildings, the lease rates are cheaper, so it's a better place to run a small SME business. So I'm 100% happy this retail is going, and it's going so the people who want to shop can go somewhere else, somewhere better, somewhere with character, somewhere where they can really help a small business survive in an old building that has got no other use in the city. And Leadenhall Market's classic. It's 7 minutes walk. If I can't walk that far, there's a problem. So I'm fully supporting not having retail in a new building. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Deputy Chairman, are you next?
Thank you, Chair. I'm very supportive of the application. As officers have outlined, the benefits outweigh the harms. There are harms, and we recognise those. I do believe that the ground floor permeability is actually enhanced through the proposals laid out by the applicants through the enhanced spaces. Depending on the retail that comes in, you don't know what you're going to get, and that is potentially a challenge for those in the community. Within the community, the City Plan 2040, whilst we do talk about attracting retail, we also do talk very significantly about attracting large HQ buildings, of which this is one. Lockton is a terrific employer in the city, an important part of the Lloyd's insurance market, somebody I believe we should be supporting for the comments I've already read aloud. And then finally, with rent rates and wages all significantly up, there is a strong likelihood of vacancy of the retail units. And vacant units are a community blight, and we should be open in our eyes to that potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. John Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair. I'm satisfied that having had these shops closed for some time, some of them for a long time, some of them for a short time, residents and office workers are not suffering in any way. The area is awash with small supermarkets, cafes, corner shops, everything anybody could need. I always look to see if there's going to be any suffering or loss of amenity, and that there isn't. The best justification I've heard for retaining these retail units is that, depending on who occupies them, it could be nice. And that's the best offer that I have heard. Against that, I'm balancing the fact that we have an international renowned tenant guaranteed to go in, a long-term tenant, and this is something that we are all working so hard to ensure that our city remains one of the premier financial centres in the world. So when I sit and balance the two things, it's very obvious to me that I'm going to vote in favour of this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, John. Anybody else like to comment? Tana Atkin.
I have an opposing view, I'm afraid, because we do have to weigh up all of the factors that we've been urged to, and we also weigh up, obviously, our officer's recommendation. But the reality is it comes down to a balance, and I'm persuaded in relation to belonging and the local people that not only work and live in this area, but having an accessible building and public benefit. I mean, looking at the presentation, it's quite clear that over 1,000 square metres of public benefit is being removed in favour of 1,000 square metres, effectively, of office space. And the public effectively will be very restricted in having any access to this building. Retail will be non-existent. And what we will have, actually, is these office workers being isolated in their office block with their own restaurant, their own accommodation, and not going out and sharing what ought to be destination city. So that's why I'm not supporting the application.
Thank you. Thank you. We've gone on for some time. Are members content for me to move us to a vote? Yes? Okay, we'll do that then.
Can I just say something? I know. Yeah, is that okay? Thank you. We've been asked to balance the harm and the public benefit, and I think the original report had it right. We've impounded more harm after the first section 73. We've stripped all the way the public benefits, as that screen said. We've lost 204 days of public access to the roof because the Monday and Friday is gone. And it is in black and white, community use and educational use. That was in there in black and white. If it's not what's meant, you need to be really clear when you write your condition. Losing the retail and the F&B, policy is really clear, destination city, vibrancy. There's also a practicality here. You've got 6,000 who work at Marsh, and you have 3,000 here. You'll be spending your whole lunchtime queuing at O'Brien's or the sandwich shop. That's the reality. That's the reality. On top of the millions of visitors that go to the Tower of London. This should be our welcoming entrance into the City of London. We should do better. The officers did a fantastic job the first way round down. We're going backwards. When I first stood, we had hardly any retail in the city. We were competing with Canary Wharf, where they had all their shops and their open spaces. If we keep stripping out retail and stripping out things like this, they'll stop. Sorry, somebody?
I think John's phone was going.
Sorry. People can and will go back to Canary Wharf if we don't provide them with the facilities that they need in a thriving city to shop, to enjoy themselves, to get bits and pieces. We've got to have the whole package. And we're rolling back. We've lost so many retail units in Fenchurch Street. We're losing these as well. It is a step backwards. And sadly, and Hugh knows, I've worked really hard with him. I've got nothing against Loxton, but I do think there is space within that very large area to incorporate at least one large retail unit that can be the Heritage Centre. And at least that way we've got something. And therefore, I would hope that they will continue, as Chris says on Friday, that he's happy to continue discussions and looking to see whether or not they can make space. We're not talking about a Tesco's. We're talking about a class heritage education centre that links with the Tower of London, the Roman baths just down the road, and the oldest church in the city. Chair.
Thank you, Marianne. Okay, folks. Jackie Webster.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that point, so what you're effectively saying is there's still a discussion to be had with the developer, because I've just found that a bit confusing. You'd had the meeting on Friday. There was a discussion of potentially looking at some of that space.
The meeting ended with...
For heritage space.
The meeting ended with the gentleman saying that he would go back and speak to his, I think it's probably you, sir, to see whether or not they could look to see whether or not they needed the whole of the ground floor, or whether or not at least the corner on, we suggested the corner on Seething Lane, because you've got the direct contacts and links with the Tower of London, moving the touchdown to Seething Lane rather than being hidden round in Mart Lane. But once they get their planning consent, I'm sure they'll roll back on everything, because everything's been rolled back completely, sad to say. But I would hope that he would honour that, and they will continue to find a way, because at the end of the day, they need these resources for their own staff. It's not good for people to be sat in a building and not getting out. It's not good for their health and well-being. And that's not what a AAA building is supposed to do. You're supposed to get out and enjoy your environment.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to a vote now. I'll give you my view, if you wish to hear it. It isn't the perfect thing for us to be discussing. It's not the perfect scheme. We are losing retail in the proposal, but on balance, I agree with John, actually, in the way you measured your thinking on this, John. I mean, I live quite close by as well in that part of East London. It is a wash with shops. I don't think this will make much difference to the provision at all. And also, there's no control over what could go in. There's a little bit you can do around rolling rents and stuff, but it's not great you can do. Destination City was cited quite a lot. I mean, it's worth remembering one of the metrics, one of the KPIs for Destination City is number of global HQs in the city. And we've heard, and we have to take them at their word, that this global HQ would walk away if they don't get this. And I personally think the extension of the roof garden hours is sufficient addition to outweigh some of the reductions in the other benefits. And it's a challenging balance to make, and that's what we have to individually make our minds up on now. So I'm going to put it to the vote. If I just ask you to turn to the decision we're being made, which is on page 199 of the pack. We'll take them both together. So this is planning obligation well, let me read it out. That's subject to the execution of a planning obligation or obligations in respect to the matter set out under the heading planning obligations. We authorise the development director to make a decision. That your officers be instructed to negotiate and execute obligations in respect to those matters, etc., etc. So hopefully that's clear what we're voting on. I summarised it a little. It's on page 199. So I'll go in favour, then against, then abstentions. If you could keep your hands up high for the count, I'd be grateful. All those in favour? That was 9. All of those against? Six. And abstentions? None. Very, very decisive committee today. Well done. Okay, that was approved. Thank you, everyone who's spoken for the debate as well. Colleagues, there are no unstarred items left on the agenda. Any questions that you may have? I don't think I'm aware of any. There's no other business. Thank you all so much for your time today.
Oh.